So I learned something today about diagnosing problems with your power pole pumps that I wanted to share. Yesterday I was fishing and my power pole on the port side was just not deploying. It always has been slow for whatever reason. Every time I hit the switch, the port side pump has just been slow, and I found out that it was a circuit board problem. So this thing was partially deployed when the circuit board broke yesterday. So if that ever happens to you, you can actually pull it up. It takes a little bit of muscle, but you can pull this thing up and you can push the hydraulic fluid back into the pump, and then you can zip tie it until you can make it home. So the first thing that I checked was the fuse. I wanted to see if the fuse had popped, and I have my pumps labeled. So this orange one is the port side, and there's another pump inside here with a red electrical tape on it that I marked for the starboard pump. So I knew that this was the problem pump, which is easy to access. The fuse was okay. The green light was flashing, which means that all of the voltage was there, but I still just couldn't figure out why the pump wouldn't activate. So the guy at Power Pole had given me some instructions on how to diagnose this, and I want to share it with you. So what he told me to do was turn the power off. So turn the power switch off, make sure that your lights are on. So I took the cap off right here. So this is what it looks like. It's just a little snap, and the little buttons are separate too. It's just a little waterproof button, and then underneath there is your circuit board. So there's a 12 volt and a ground right here for diagnostic testing, and then here's your down and your up and your mode selector switch. This circuit board is actually also removable. There's only two little pin clips in there. You can kind of pry it up gently, and that's what I'm going to do in a minute, but I want to show you how he told me to test this. So this is why I always keep a multimeter in the boat. There's two terminals. There's a positive and there's a ground, and these are just diagnostic testing. Test your voltage. So I have my multimeter over there, and I'm getting 13.63. Now I need both hands, but if I were to hit that switch down or up, the voltage should fluctuate slightly. If the voltage goes below 10.7 volts, he told me, that it's a supply issue, something in your fuse, connections, wiring. In my case, I had hit the switch and basically nothing had changed. My voltage barely fluctuated at all, which is what led us to believe that this circuit board had just simply failed. Now, Power Pole's amazing. I just gave them the number on the side of the circuit board, and they're gonna send me a new one. So removing this circuit board was extremely easy. Obviously, I just took the cap off, which is just one little clip, and the little waterproof seal. And there's only two pins on the rounded side of your pump, and that's basically it. I just pulled them up, and these two tiny little pins were down in a hole there, and the contacts were sitting. I'm gonna leave this little. So the solution that I came to is that I had one good circuit board and one bad one, and they're not going to be able to get me the new circuit board till the end of next week, and I still have a power pole that's partially deployed, and I cannot get the hydraulic fluid to prime back up and hold it into place. So what I'm going to do is take the good circuit board off of the other power pole, and I'm going to keep the bad circuit board out, but I'm just going to put the good circuit board into this pump, prime my pole back up so I don't have to run with zip ties for the next, I don't know, 7 to 10 days. So that's what I'm going to do, is put the good one in and then turn the power back on and prime it back up. Good circuit board is in. I'm going to turn the power back on to this pole. So flashing green light. Nothing has exploded yet. I'm gonna hit the up switch and see if I can get my pole up. So I put the new circuit board, the circuit board that I know is a good circuit board, onto this pump, and I hit the up button to try and prime it back up, and the same issue had occurred, which means that the problem isn't in the circuit board, it's actually in the motor. So the people at Power Pole let me know that I can do this, take this motor off and interchange them. So obviously I have one good one, or one bad one and one good one, and I have a pole that still needs to get put prime back up. So this was the issue. The pump, when I hit the down button, it turns slightly. So it's getting all the good voltage. It's just simply the motor got cooked somehow. So I'll turn it in the other direction, and that's what it's doing. So this motor's obviously failed. So still have to swap the good motor over to this housing so that I can prime back up my my anchor. I just want to show how I was doing this. The two pins are on this side, so I'm taking my little screwdriver and I'm just gently prying it up. It's extremely easy to do. Now this pump isn't even loose, but I wanted to show how you can remove the pump. So this is my good circuit board. I don't want to confuse it with the other one. And when the pump sits down in there, obviously I had already removed this, but there's two very long Phillips screws that go down, and that's what holds this motor to the pump housing. So extremely easy to swap. I'm just going to take that motor and I'm going to put it on this one to prime it back up. Well, as I was pulling the power wires out of this little job, I realized that my organizational skills are actually coming in handy here. As I had my power pole fuses color coded and labeled, now I know that this orange is the port side pump that had failed. And I'd also put a little orange tape where it connects to the little junction box there too. So pretty easy thing. I don't know if it's something that other people do, but I definitely recommend labeling or color coding your fuses and your power connections, because obviously I'm going to have to remove the bad motor, which requires removal of this. So I swapped the motor cartridge from my other pump onto this one, just so that I can raise up the power pole. So it's still partially deployed, and all I'm going to do is just bring it back up so that the anchor is in the up position, and just run it up and down a couple times so that I can prime up the motor and the hydraulics so that it doesn't bounce around when I'm using it until the new pump comes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the good pump back in here, because this pump house is a little bit harder to access, so that when the new one comes I can just easily put it on this. But I'm going to disconnect the voltage from this unit until the new pump house and circuit board show up. I'm going to show the removal of the circuit board one more time. The pins are in the front. Just gently pry around the edge. Grab it with my fingers now and just kind of pull it straight up. It's just the voltage connections where these two wires go right here that are labeled ground and 12 volt. So that's how the circuit board is removed, and the pump just has two Phillips heads, and that's it. And there's just a little gasket right here with some holes to line it up. Super easy. That's it. So that's my good pump, and there's a little gasket right there. So I'm just gonna line up the little shaft on this rear one, and I'll put it in. To tighten down the motor to the valve housing, I'm using one of these little bit drivers that will attach to my 1/4-inch drive ratchet, and I'm just sticking my hand in there and tighten it finger tight, because obviously a screwdriver won't fit. And when I get it snug, I just wanted to share this. So I just wanted to share this on the pump that I had removed. Is when you're putting it back together, put the white rubber piece on and take the time to get all the waterproofing down into the seal before you put your lid on. So take a couple seconds and do that. It'll make putting the cap on much easier. I was struggling on the other one, and obviously it just clips onto those two rear things. So line up the back first, and when you push it on to get this front thing, actually takes a lot of pressure. I think I need 2 hands to push it down, but it'll fit and it'll put down and catch on that clip. So that was something that is important. If that seal is not sealed, it won't close. So that's pretty much it. I'd put my good motor back in on the other side. Both the caps are on. And I left this one with the bad motor pump in Circuitboard, because this one's just going to be easier for me to access when the pump comes in a few days. PowerPole was extremely awesome on the phone. I've heard about their customer service being on point, and they were really amazing. The guy was on the phone. I think it took about 5 minutes to help me diagnose this, and I only needed 2 tools. That's it. Just the multimeter to test the circuit board and a Phillips head. But the only thing that I wanted to bring up was, if somebody had that same issue and their power pole was fully deployed, it would be a pretty difficult thing if you were in the middle of a lake and couldn't get your power pole back up. You can push the hydraulic fluid back in. That is the recommended method if your power pole is stuck or your circuit board blows or whatever happens and you're in the middle of the lake. You can pull it back up, but it takes some doing. And once you compress the hydraulic fluid back into the pump, the piston kind of goes limp, so you need something to keep it up until you get back home. So I recommend some of the big cable ties, the super heavy duty ones, or if you have Velcro straps, not a bad thing to have in your boat anyways. I know most people should have a multimeter and a screwdriver and some cable ties in your boat, but that was pretty much it. It was easy, and I think I will show the install of the new motor. Thanks for watching the video. I hope it helped. I hope whoever found this video probably was in a pickle, and I hope it helped you in some way. The whole point of it was just to show how I went from having a power pole that was cable tied just to get the hydraulic fluid back into it until my new motor and circuit board show up. So I hope it helped.